Good evening, everybody. We greet you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, and we welcome you to our Thursday night. Let's talk about it. Thank you for those of you who are watching from Zoom or watching Facebook Live. Thank you for coming in tonight and being a guest. Certainly, we are grateful for this platform that the Lord has blessed us with, and we are blessed to have a guest with us tonight. Minister Claudette Graves. She's with us tonight, and we're grateful to have her. And our topic tonight will be what happens when stress consumes you. And we understand that all of us, we're living in some uncertain times, and all of us deal with stress in different ways. But it can manifest itself in a way that it could cause us a lot of problems down the road. And so since this pandemic has happened, it has brought a lot of changes to a lot of us and how we are living and how we've had to make adjustments. Some of us are stressed out because we're having to still quarantine ourselves and stay in at home. Some may be stressed out because they're unemployed, not knowing where their next paycheck is going to come from. All of us got stress coming from different ways and from different situations. But tonight we're grateful to have Minister Claudette Graves here to share her story about what stress did to her. And so I'm going to turn it over to her and allow her to introduce herself, and then I'll come back and we'll get this show started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claudette Graves, and currently I live in Tampa. I have served 23 years in the military. I am the mother of two. My son is now 34 and my daughter 23. And I am also a widow. I became a widow in 2016. And so I'm grateful. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for consenting to be a part of our platform. I'm excited to what you're going to bring to us tonight. I think it's going to bless a lot of people. My job is to equip and to empower. And so tonight, as we get ready to start, Claudette is going to share with us what stress did to her life and how it caused her life to change in so many ways. Now, for those of you who are watching tonight, you may be dealing with some stress, and it may be early stress. But if you allow it to continue, you're going to hear tonight how it can affect you. Now, all of us may be getting some stress from many different directions, but Claudette, she's here tonight to tell us how stress affected her life and how it almost took her life out. So Claudette, go and help us tonight.
So once again, thank you, Bishop. I will tell you all, started in January of 2013. And so when I say started in January 2013, I am talking about my symptoms, my physical symptoms that started to take place. The first thing I noticed is I was having problems with my fingertips. My hands would get so cold, and at the time I was in Pennsylvania for a military school, and I just couldn't warm up. As soon as I would get inside a building, I would, hopefully my hands would defrost, and it could be about 4 or 5 hours before I could really feel my fingertips again. And so that went on for a while, but the school that I was in was a 4 months at the War College. And if I missed any days, it could set me back. And so I didn't want to go to the doctor. I just wanted to keep pressing forward. The next thing I noticed was still while I was in school within those 4 months is a part of my body will go numb, say like my arms or one of my legs would go numb at night when I was laying down. And so I told a friend of mine, and she said, oh, it's the mattress that they have there. You need to get a foam mattress and lay on that. So I did that, and that helped relieve that symptom. So I continued on with school. I finished school and I still had the issue of my fingertips. I thought I was just in a different climate because at the time I was really living in Georgia. So I thought I went from Georgia to Pennsylvania, that I just couldn't handle the cold. But I grew up in New York, so I didn't, quite understand. But I thought just maybe my body couldn't adjust to the climate. So when I went back to Georgia, I was only there for a few days because the military then stationed me down in Florida. When I came, and that's where I am now. When I came to Florida, the symptoms persisted, continued to go on. And as time went by, the next thing I noticed is that half my face would go numb. And so, and I would massage it, like my whole, like it would drop, almost like I had palsy, but I didn't have palsy. And so I would go to the doctor, they drew blood over and over and over again. We can't see anything wrong. And they thought it was lupus. And so they said, no, you don't have lupus. And so don't have MS. So I had to do brain scans and still no findings. And they also did my ANA testing, which is checking to see if I have an autoimmune disease. And still, all came back negative. And so I started to fast. I would, fast and do things like that. But the symptoms would relieve somewhat, but then just come back. And that went on all of 2013. By this time, I probably have about 4 different doctors who are looking at me. And then 2014 came, I noticed my arms, the skin of my arms began to change. By August 2014, my arms were extremely dark and my hands were extremely white, but the back of my hands were extremely dark, My chest became dark. I'm trying to think, my belly became extremely dark, and I go to the doctor, something's wrong. Something's wrong with me. Still, no, nothing was changed. Nothing could help. And so that went on, and I noticed myself slowing down. I couldn't run as fast as I used to. And then it came to the point that I couldn't run. And I started to walk very slowly. And so now we're going into 2015 and I'm walking like like an old lady, just can barely move, just can't get it about myself. And I'm tired. No matter how many hours I slept that night, I still would be extremely tired in the morning. And so by this time I have about, 8 doctors. In 2015, finally, early 2015, we had a new doctor that came into the military base, and one of the soldiers called me. It was my day off. It was the base's day off, but the clinic was open. And she said, ma'am, can you come in? I know it's your day off, but we have a new doctor. And I told her about you. I told her how much you're deteriorating. And she wants to look at you. I said, okay, And also I am going to every natural doctor I can as well. So I'm on vitamins. I'm getting vitamin infusions. I am sitting in sauna rooms with red infrared lights. I'm, doing everything I can. Say again?
Trying to warm up,
but also anything that will bring a relief to whatever's going on.
Okay. Were you losing weight as well?
I'm losing weight, but I was already a heavy girl. So I didn't see the weight loss at that time as a part of the illness.
Okay.
And so by the time in 2015, I had went from like 216 to about 184, 185. And that was the goal weight that I wanted to be at. And so I said, okay, good. I can stop losing weight. Let me just go ahead and eat more. That's what I was thinking. Let me eat more. But now by this time, now I'm noticing that I can't control this weight loss, that this weight is starting to just keep coming off of me. So anyway, the doctor, she looked at me and she said, I think you have something called scleroderma. And by now I had researched all my symptoms and to see what it could possibly be. And scleroderma kept showing up on the internet. I didn't want to accept it as a diagnosis because I knew if it was scleroderma, it was the worst type. And so allow me to explain. Scleroderma comes in two types. A local, which would just be on your arms and on your legs, and then diffuse, which would cover your entire body. And I knew what I had was attacking my entire body. But it wasn't just because I saw it on the outside, it's because of what it also came with. It came with organ failure, which is why now I couldn't move, right? So what was actually happening is my lungs were starting to shut down, and and just the different organs were being attacked. And so she said, I think you have scleroderma. And so she tested me, and for scleroderma, it came back negative. She said, I'm gonna send you to a rheumatologist. Well, by now, I can't think straight. Like I have brain fog. My vision is starting to go away. I no longer can, if you want to say, stoop down or bend down. I couldn't close my hands in a fist. It was like rigor mortis was starting to settle in. My arms, I couldn't stretch my arms out. My arms still don't go all the way out, but it was kind of like stuck at a bent. And so in my legs too, I couldn't, my legs wouldn't stretch all the way out. And so I no longer could sleep on my stomach because my body had started to curve in. So I could lay on my back, but not on my stomach because it was, like if you put something down like this, my body wouldn't flatten out. And so, I'm getting kind of emotional thinking about it. So that went on. And so she sent me to the rheumatologist, and the rheumatologist put me on medicine. And I started to take the medicine, but I was getting worse. I'm walking slower. I'm losing weight, now like maybe 2-3 pounds a week. So my primary doctor, she said, okay, let's do a metals test. So she did that, and they tested metals in my body. And by this time, I had a metal in my body called cadmium. And cadmium, you're not supposed to have any cadmium in your body. And the body can only tolerate a certain amount, right?
What is that?
But I was at 5 times the amount that your body, could tolerate anyway. And so the rheumatologist, she said, I know I can't treat her. I don't know what's wrong with her. The tests are coming back negative. Either send her to the Mayo Clinic or to Johns Hopkins. They preferred to send me to Johns Hopkins because Johns Hopkins, they were convinced it was scleroderma. They said Johns Hopkins had a scleroderma center, the one in the country, and they also had a metals clinic. So they sent me there. And so I asked, so at the time, like I said, I was married at the time. My husband was alive. And so I wanted him to go with me, but at this time, he wouldn't go, right? So a friend of mine who we look like sisters, she asked me who was going with me. I said, no one, I don't have it. I didn't ask anyone to go with me. And I said, I can't ask someone just to leave their job. I do not know how long I will be in Maryland. And so my friend said, I'll go with you. And so, so we did. So we left and we went to Johns Hopkins together. And so by this time I had deteriorated to a wheelchair. And so, and my weight loss probably at this point was probably like 40, 50 pounds, So I no longer looked like myself. My face had become distorted. I used to have like much fuller lips. My mouth started to protrude. but that whole look of just all your face being drawn in, and you can start see like the skeletal part of my body. So I get in there, and I would just get so winded, just terribly. And so they initially sent me to the scleroderma unit. So I go in, and the doctor looks at me and she says, "Okay, I'm gonna run some tests." She goes, "But I can tell you right now, you have scleroderma." I said, "Okay." I said, "I looked it up. Which one do I have?" She said, "You have diffuse scleroderma." She said, "It's throughout your body." She said, "When did you initially see skin involvement?" I said, "It's been over a year." So she said, "Okay." I said, "So what's my prognosis?" She said, "Normally with diffuse scleroderma, when we first see, we count from the time you see skin involvement. So that was a year prior to me seeing her." She says, "It's a 3-year life expectancy." She said, "Right now we don't have a cure." And so I began to weep. I began to cry. And my friend, she says, "But you shall not die, but live to declare the works of the Lord." And it's like it did something to me. It just, when she said that, I was like, okay, all right, Claudette, get it together, right? You got the Lord, right? And so that doctor, and her name is Dr. Julie Peck, Dr. Julie says, "Are you guys Christians?" We said, "Yes." "Are you guys sisters?" We said, "No." Everyone asked us that. We just look alike. And so she said, "All I can give you is the history of a disease. I can't tell you how it's going to behave in your body," right? And she says, "But right now, that's what we have. We have a 3-year life expectancy. If you can get to the point that you live past the 3 years and we can halt the disease, then you'll see a 5-year plateau. And then after that, you may see some decrease in your symptoms. The problem is that we're having trouble keeping you guys alive with your kidneys and your lungs shutting down." I said, "Okay." She said, so she said, "First, let me run some more tests." So she did that. And so I'm lying on the table, and she says, "I don't know what's bothering you, but what your problem is stress." She said, "The disease comes from being at a high level of stress too long." And she said, "How long have you been at a high level of stress?" And so I began to cry, and I said, "Probably about 5, 6 years now, 7 years. I don't know, something just long." And she said, "Tell me what's going on." And I said, "I'm in an abusive marriage, an emotionally, physically abusive marriage, more emotional." And she said, "Okay, you got to let it go." She said, "If you don't, it's going to kill you." Right? She said, not just the emotional thing, but the stress had now taken on this physical thing in my body. Scleroderma is a stress-induced disease. She said, "Okay." She said, "We can treat you, but it will do no good until you let it go." And I said, "Okay." She said, "You're going to let it go?" And I said, "Yes." But I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know how to let go of the stress. I didn't know how. I said, "Okay." So she says, "I want to put you on I'm going to put you on steroids. And then I'm also going to put you on this, I'd like for you to start this trial. And it's a medicine that we give to people who have got a new organ replacement. And we think that it might help with people with scleroderma, diffuse scleroderma." And then she goes, "And if it gets really bad, then we can do the stem cells," right? I said, "Okay." And she said, "We don't want to do stem cells. That's a whole nother host of problems that you really don't want to face." I said, "Okay." So she sent me home. No, they kept me there for about a week. And so I stayed there, and they were monitoring to see, how bad my organs are doing. And so at this point, my lungs had already, I had already had lung involvement, but my heart was still fine, kidney fine, you know, all the other organs had come back, but my lungs were already involved. So I was no longer getting enough oxygen to my hands, which is why my hands were cold, my feet was cold, and I just couldn't get warm. So so she sent me home, right? After that, to come back in 3 months, and I would do and that would be the cycle that she would treat me, that I would have to come back every 3 months. Also, scleroderma is measured on a number scale, 0 to 53. So 0 will be a normal person, right? So most of you will be a 0. And 53 is now you're near death. And so I was at a 38 when I got diagnosed. So that kind of tells you the severity of the disease. So at this point, on my way home, my friend, her name was Brenda, still is, right? So Brenda called. We were in Germany together. So by this time we had been friends over 20 years. So she made a call to Germany to the pastors that we were under in Germany, and the pastors said, tell Claudette to go on a juice fast. So I said, okay. So I make it home, and I'm sitting on the porch. I had a porch at this house. I lived on base, and I sat on the porch, and I couldn't work. So that had came to a halt. So I was home, and all I would do is sit on the porch, and I would pray, read my word, and juice. I juiced every hour on the hour, right? And sleep. And that was the other thing, and sleep. And that's all I did every day. And so I took the steroids. I took the steroid medicine, but I would not take the other medicine but I knew it was a chemo drug. And just a few years prior, my mom had died from cancer. And I also had just lost my dad. So, and I saw what chemo did to my mom. So I didn't want chemo as well. So I wouldn't take the drug. So I continued, with the steroids, and I started to feel, I could touch my feet, I was still losing weight. I still was dropping weight, but I can move a little bit more. And I was like, oh wow, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. And so, but after I finished the first round of steroids, I started to go down again. I said, oh my God, not again. And so I called the doctor, and all the patients had direct access to her because scleroderma at the time was such a rare disease, and diffuse scleroderma was even more rare. So I called her, I said, Dr. Julie, I'm going down. I was doing better, but it's getting worse now. And she said, the medicine is not working. And I said, oh, I didn't take that medicine. I said, I can't take chemo. I said, I can't go. I'd rather just go ahead and die than to go through what my mom went through in her last days. And so she says, Claudette, it could save your life. Your mother was getting infused chemo. This is not the same thing. She said, just try it. Come on, do it. I said, okay, I'll try it. She said, okay, I'm going to give you another round of steroids because you have to do the steroids in order to start
chemo.
The chemo drug. I said, okay. So I did the round of steroids along with the name of the drug is called Cellcept. So I started to do the Cellcept. And once again, I started to feel better. And I'm still fasting. I'm still doing a juice fast. So I'm not consuming food, which is also what I'm contributing to the continued weight loss. So at this point, but now I can open and close my hands. I can touch my feet, so I'm feeling good, and I'm still praying and sitting on the porch. And at this point, this was September. And so I said, okay, so I got diagnosed in June. this is 3 months later. It's September. It's time for me to go back to Maryland and get looked at. And so I go back, but now I'm walking. I'm standing upright. I'm still kind of curved in, but clearly I'm not where I was 3 months ago. And so I go in and she says, where's your sister? And I said, Dr. Julie, I told you she's not my sister. I said, we just look alike. We're close friends. She said, I know. She said, I didn't recognize you. You look really well. She says, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing the cell set. I thought, what you told me to do. And she said, no. She said, that was just an entry drug. So we can now, turn it up to address the situation. I said, well, she says, what else are you doing? I said, well, the only other thing I'm doing is I'm praying, I'm fasting, and reading my word. And I'm home. I get a lot of rest. And she said, okay, that's it. Continue. She said, you got to start eating food because I had another disease with it, and it was myositis. So, and that is a disease where your muscles atrophy. And so that's why I was having trouble walking and all that stuff. And so she said, I need you to start eating. Right? Start eating. So I did that. I started to eat. And so I went on with that. That was a Tuesday. That Friday of that same week, I decided to go to Georgia. And that's where my husband was. I was living in Florida. The military moved me down to Florida. And I say this, I felt like God took me out the home for my safety, for my health, and had me stationed in Florida. So I said, okay. So it was my late husband's birthday was that Thursday. And by this time I was also back to work. And so that Friday, I said, I'll catch a plane, go home. I want to go visit my daughter. She was now in Tuskegee. I said I was gonna go visit her and then come on back. So the trip didn't go quite that way. So when I got home, when I got to Georgia, I felt tired. My body couldn't handle getting in the car and then driving to Alabama. So I said, oh goodness, okay, I'm just gonna go home, right? If we're gonna argue, fight, whatever, just go home. Because I was just too tired. So I go home, and so but my husband wasn't home, right? And so at that time, I just sensed that something was wrong. Something's not right in the house. So I look all through the house, and I didn't see anything. Everything looked like normal. So and my husband and I, we were talking continuously throughout the day. So I didn't have a reason to suspect anything, But still, I just had a feeling inside the house that something's not right. And so as and he would ask me, where are you? Right. And I said, oh, I'm about to go get something to eat, or, right. So then I saw there was a voicemail on the answer machine. So I listened to the voicemail, and it was another woman. And they had planned to meet up that day, And so I said, okay, all right. So this is how it ends, right? And so I realized, okay, my marriage of going on 10 years is about to end right now. And it's going to end in divorce, because I know the Bible allows me to leave out of infidelity. And so I said, okay. So I called him, and so we spoke. And so somewhere in the phone call, I said, hey. And he said, hey. And I said, I know where you are, and I know what you're doing, and I know who you're with. And so he says, I said, and I called her by name. So then, right, you couldn't deny it at this point. And I called the hotel by name. And so, right, so there's nothing you can do, right? It's the truth. And so he says, what did you say? And so I said it again, right? Like a robot, like somehow I just became like this robot, no feelings, just, So I said it again. And so we got off the phone. And so he called right back. And so I said, call me on the house phone, because for some reason I wanted him to know that I was really in that house. So he called on the house phone and he began to give a bunch of excuses and so forth. And but by this time I was resolved. I was done. Just Lord, to let Monday come and I'll, proceed with divorce, with a divorce. And so during that phone call, he kept saying, I'm coming home. I'm getting on 275 right now. I'm getting on 275. And I said, well, just stay there. You already paid for the hotel. Nope, I don't care about that. I'm coming home right now. And then I turned into a robot. I understand. I understand. He said, what about us? I said, you made your decision, right? You don't need me. You made your decision. I didn't make a decision. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. And so that went on for a good 15, 20 minutes. And I was exhausted of saying the same words over and over again, to the point I was the answers that I was giving to his questions no longer made sense. And I said, okay, I need to get off this telephone. I said, okay, if you're going to drive home, then stay focused on the road. And earlier that day, he told me he had an excruciating headache. And I said, well, you told me you had a bad headache. Just stay there, right? Just stay where you are. He said, no, I'm coming home. I said, well, let's get off the phone. You said you got a headache. Just focus on the road. He said, okay. So we got off the phone, and at this point, I couldn't cry. I just felt like, okay, this is how it ends. So I got cleaned up and so forth, and I went to bed. I went to sleep. And then about maybe 2 hours later, I wake up and I'm thinking, oh, he decided not to come home, is what and then but at that same moment, the house phone began to ring, and I was like, who's calling, this time of the night? So I answered the phone and I said, hello. And they're yelling, Claudette, Claudette, right? Just frantic. The person is frantic, right? And I have no feelings. I can't feel. And I said, yes, who is this? She says, you need to get to the hospital right now. Get to the hospital right now. Your husband just suffered a massive hemorrhagic stroke. So I didn't believe her. And I was thinking, you got a lot of nerve to call my house and come up with this story. And I could hear a man in the background. And so I said, who is this? And she said, this is your sister-in-law, Claudette. And because I guess she could tell that I wasn't, with it. Claudette. And I said, yes, you have to get to the hospital. They need you to give authorization on whether to put him on life support or not. I said, oh, really? Who is this? She said, this is your sister-in-law. I said, I hear a man in the background. Who is the man? Because I thought it was him. She said, that's Corey, which was my nephew at the time. And so that kind of startled me and woke me up out of the situation I was in. And I said, what? She says, go to the hospital. He had a stroke about, I guess, an hour or 2 hours ago. So it had been right after we got the telephone. I said, okay, which hospital he's in? You got to go to Alabama, because he was in Alabama. I said, okay. So I get in the car and I drive to Alabama. And so there I see he had the stroke, he's having a seizure, and it's just terrible, right? And so the doctor, his doctor, is now speaking to me. And she says, I want you to look at something. And she showed me a chart and everything. And the bottom line, the chart was telling me that he had a 3% chance to live 30 days. And so that's what I asked her. I said, are you trying to tell me that he has a 3% chance, to see 30 days? She said, yes, ma'am. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I said, okay. So the stroke put him in a coma. So for 40 days, he stayed in that coma. And during those 40 days, so I'm there every day with him. And I didn't know how to feel, right? I was a bag of emotions, which with my condition, That's the last thing I need. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling mad. I'm feeling like you had it coming. I'm feeling like I love you. I'm feeling like, oh, now our marriage can be, just a bunch of emotions at one time. So that went on, like I said, for 40 days. And then all of a sudden, I felt jittery, like my arm was, I couldn't control my body, like it was jerking. And so I thought I had an infection because if you know anything about coma patients, they keep infections. And I was always in his face and, dealing with that. But also, let me just say this, God had changed my heart during this time. I fell back in love with my husband, right? But like I said, back to the illness, my body is jerking. So I go to the emergency room in the hospital and I said, oh, I think I have an infection or something. I'm not feeling well. And so took my temperature and everything like that. And she said, how did you get in here? I said, what do you mean? I said, I drove here. She said, no, how did you get from the parking lot to this emergency room? I said, I walked. She said, you walked? She said, how did you feel walking? I said, I felt tired. I felt winded. I said, I don't feel good. I said, I think I have an infection. She said, you don't have a fever. You don't have an infection. And so she put me in a wheelchair. No, a couple of nurses came, put me in a wheelchair, and they took me immediately to a room. And so I said, oh no, I'm in trouble, right? I don't have to wait in the emergency room. And so then a bunch of doctors came in, about 3 doctors, 4 nurses came in, and the phlebotomist, the person who gave me my IV. So I'm laying on the table, and they're all like looking over me. And what I see is, I guess the head doctor and so forth, and they brought in, I'm trying to say this word, defibrillator, right? The thing for your heart. And so he says, are you okay, Miss Graves? And I said, yeah. I said, my husband is in a coma up on the 8th floor. And so I said, I think I caught an infection from him. And so he says, no, ma'am, you don't have an infection. And I said, all right. And he said, your heart rate is at 167 beats per minute. And he says, and you're doing nothing but laying on this table. He says, you are now in heart failure. So I was like, okay, all right. I said, I have scleroderma. I said, you got to get a hold of my doctor. And so I gave him my doctor's number. And so my doctor was like, check her heart to see if the scleroderma had now spread to my heart. And so that, but that would be on standby. First, they got to get my heart rate down to normal. And so he says, okay, so while I'm in there with this team of doctors and team of nurses, the doctor says, we have to do a procedure. And that is, we have to stop your heart and start it again. I said, all right. He said, we're going to do it intravenously. He said, so I need not tell you that there's a possibility that your heart won't start again, I said, okay. But for some reason, I was calm. Only God, right? That's all I can say was only God. And then I felt like I could make sport, like I could laugh. And also while I was on the table, like make light of it. And so I looked at the phlebotomist, the guy who's about to do my IV, and I'm looking at him and I was like, well, right. I just believe God, it's going to work out or something like that. I said something crazy, And so he looks at me and he says, you're going to be fine. And once again, like it calmed me down, like I'm going to be fine. And so the doctor says, another doctor says, when he gives you, and I can't remember the name of the medicine, when he gives it to you, you're going to feel nauseated. I said, well, no, just give me a cold towel. I don't want to feel nauseated, She said, no, we already gave you something for the nausea. I said, great. So he gives me, and they give me he said, we're about to do the medicine right now. I said, okay. So he does. and I could feel it go in, and then I could feel my heart like stop, boom, and then charge back up, boom, boom, like that. Almost like somebody used those paddles to do it, but this is all happening just inside my body, and my body jerks up, and so I'm laying there, and so I was like, "Yep, I'm still here, right?" And so they're all now just staring down at me, just like looking at me, and so one of the one of the doctors says, Claudette, no, Miss Graves. I said, yes. He said, how are you feeling? I said, I'm good. I'm still here. And so one says, well, what did it feel like? Right. And I said, you guys don't do this often? They was like, no, we don't. They said, normally by the time a person in heart failure, it's too late for us to do this. But you were in the hospital, right? So, and I said, oh, look at God. They said, you were in the hospital so we could do it, I said, well, you ever have wasabi that you put like on your, oh my God, what is it called? On your sushi? And they say, yes. I said, it felt like I had wasabi and it just went, it cleared my head, like the heat raised to my head. And so they laughed. And I was like, no, that's really what it felt like, that. And so they said, we're going to keep you. And I said, no, I have to go. My husband's on the 8th floor. And they said, no. The doctor said, we've already checked your husband's chart. They was like, Miss Graves, your husband is going to die. Okay? All right? You have to understand that. But you're not going to die. You just made it through this, right? You're not going to die. And I said, I can't go up there. They said, you can't go anywhere. You're not leaving this emergency room right now. You're staying right here. We're not even putting you in the room. And so I said, okay, right? But I'm not going to lie to you all. I wanted to go upstairs to that room. So they got my doctor on the phone, Dr. Julie, and they put her on the phone with me. And she said, Claudette. I said, yes. And she said, tell me what happened. So I told her what happened, from the infidelity and all that stuff. She said, okay, I hope you're satisfied. You now know everything that was going on. She said, look, your husband is going to die, but you are not. You're going to live, okay? She said, you have to let that situation go. No matter how hard it is, let it go. I said, okay, right? But I still didn't know how to let go. So they ended up putting me in a room, and I stayed in that room for 7 days. And finally I was released. And by this time they had moved, because I had already had an order to have my husband move to Florida. So he was already in Florida and he was awake. So I get in the car, and me and my friend, we drive down to Florida. And what do I want to do? I want to go straight to the hospital where my husband is at. So I go in there, and so we talk, right? And I'll make that story short, because that's a whole nother story. He says, I don't love you. I said, okay. And then he told the staff there that he didn't want to see me anymore. So I thought for sure, just leave here and just drive to the local hospital, Claudette. You just go check yourself in, because, right, it's over. But amazing enough, as I was walking out the hospital, out his hospital, which I wouldn't go to the emergency room in that hospital because that was a long-term care hospital. So I'm thinking, just get in your truck and drive to Tampa General Hospital. Let them know any minute you're gonna go into heart failure. But amazing enough, as I was walking out that hospital, I was like, wow, why am I not crying? And I could hear the Lord say, let it go and trust me. And that is when it hit me that this whole while, the way I could let go the stress was to just trust the Lord. That I can't change the outcome of anything. Just to let it go and put my trust in God. If I pray about a situation, really believe that He has my best interest at heart. To truly believe that. And that was a journey. And so, once again, I'm back to this point of you can't work, right? So I went home, and once again, I was on my porch. I didn't fast this time, but I did eat, just eat clean, and took my medicine, and then my doctors, right, continued on. And so 3 months later, December came. I had to go back to John Hopkins. And by this time, I was feeling, I started, overall, I ended up losing over 60 pounds, 60, 70 pounds. So I get to the doc, so I get to Dr. Julie, and now I'm starting to put on some weight. And so she looks at me and she say, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "I'm okay." She said, she said, "You look well." She said, "I see you gained weight." And I said, "Yeah." I said, she said, "Did you let it go?" And I said, "I did. I let it go." And she said, "Is your husband still alive?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "He's alive. He doesn't want to see me." She says, "Have you tried to go see him?" I said, "No." I never looked back. I just kept going. And she said, "That's good." Right? She said, "You will continue to get better." And I did. And I did. And so a few months later, my husband ended up having another bleed in the brain and going into another coma that would last 6 months. And from there, he died. He died in that coma. And so, and my doctors continued to monitor me. By this time, I had a full 10 doctors. The cardiologist, because now I'm a heart patient. And so, after the death, I am with my cardiologist. And by this time, no one knew exactly what happened to my heart. Why did I go into heart failure? Because what they found out is scleroderma did not hit my heart. And so they said, "We don't know what's wrong with your heart. We need to find out." So they sent me to this doctor here in Tampa, and he comes in. He had been a cardiologist since Jesus days. He said, I'm gonna tell you what happened to your heart, and then I'm gonna tell you, and then I want you to tell me what happened. I said, "Okay." He said, "You have suffered what we call a broken heart." And so I said, "That's a real thing?" And he gave me the real technical name for it. He said, "It's a very real thing." He said, "Normally we see it where one spouse dies and the other dies." And I said, "Okay." And he says, "It's stress to the heart. The body cannot contain the stress that the heart literally breaks. The bottom of the heart stops beating, and the top of the heart has to now pump overtime." That's why my heart rate was up to 167 beats per minute. But every artery was clear, didn't have any blockage, right? How can a perfectly good heart just stop working like that? And so it's called a broken heart. And so he said, "We'll continue to monitor you. Your heart should return to normal, but it's going to take some time." And it took about 2 years for my heart now to operate normally. So the outcome still, I'm no longer diagnosed with scleroderma. My numbers came all the way down to a 2, and a 3. That's where I sit now, which is about as normal. The reason I stayed at 2 or 3 because I have residual, like there's some skin discoloration. I still will get a heart palpitation every now and then, and I still have decreased lung function. And my lungs have been stable now for about since 2015. So, for any of you that are dealing with stress, no matter how mild you might think it is, one, we don't know, right? I didn't feel stressed. I just knew I was going through a troubled marriage, but I didn't feel stressed. But the stress was killing me, right? It was killing me. And so one of the times when I went to the doctor, I had another friend with me, and so my doctor she's ecstatic because she's jumping around, "Thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus." And so my friend says, "So is she gonna die? Is she gonna die?" And so my doctor says, "Well, one day she'll die, but she won't die from this, right? She won't die from the scleroderma." And oh, this other thing I want to tell you, and they never had to increase my medication, right? So I'm thankful. I'm really thankful to God. And I have learned, right, not to allow things to bother me to the point you would think sometimes I don't care. I do care, but I can't allow it to bother me. I don't have control over the matter. I have to let it go. So if you guys have any questions or anything that you would like to ask, I'm willing to answer.
I'll wait for some questions to come in, but I want to say to you, Claudette, you are an amazing person. You are a walking miracle, and clearly the Lord is not through with you yet. You have a remarkable testimony, a very moving testimony. And I can't see all the reactions on people's faces, whether they're on Facebook Live or whether they're on Zoom, because a lot of faces are mute. But I know how this story touched me. Matter of fact, we talked earlier last week, but it hit me again much harder tonight by just sitting and watching you telling your story. And for all of us that are listening, just like Claudette said, the stress isn't worth it. Whatever you're suffering from stress from, it's not worth it. If you want to live, you got to find a way to let it go. And so I'm grateful tonight for your story, because I believe your story will help a lot of people that may be going through some stress and dealing with some stressful situations, even as we speak. And God kept you here for a reason. And I'm grateful that He allowed our paths to cross. He's doing great things for you. I do want everybody to know that Claudette is a minister, and you are studying to get your what?
A doctorate of ministry now.
All right. And I don't see any questions yet, but here's what I want you to do. Those who are on Zoom, I want you to send out some hearts or whatever you can send out, some type of praise or anything, just to thank God for Claudette's life and her story, because it has been, I know, a blessing to me, and I believe it's been a blessing to you as well. So if you can do that for me right now so she can see that, it will be a blessing. And Claudette, while they're getting ready to do that, I want you to tell us about porches.
Okay. So
just share that story with us, just for those. Now I've heard it, but for those who may not understand it, so share that piece with us about porches.
So one of the things that I did, as I was mentioning earlier, is that I often would sit on my porch and talk to the Lord. And so while I was on the porch one day, I said, I wish other people had the opportunity to sit home and heal. And I knew it was the military and so forth, so I still received the income during this time. But it's where, I said I would love for someone to have something like this. And one of the things that I really wanted was, there was times that I was so weak and I was living alone. I wish somebody could, fix the meal or something, because I needed to eat to get my energy, but then I would get so tired that I didn't have enough energy to get to the kitchen to do that. But I knew if I just stayed lying on the couch or lying in the bed, then it's only going to get worse, right? And so I'll have to force, and it was just those moments that I really wish somebody was here. And so, as I began to recover and so forth, and I was back at work. I had told a couple of my friends, I said, the only thing that I wish, and this is what I just told you. And so I said, I think when I retire, I'm going to get a home. I'm going to get a house and have rooms where if someone's not well, they just want to restore. They just want to just come and retreat. They want to, they could be actually sick. And now they just, need a place to come and to heal like I did, not sick enough at this point to be in the hospital, but sick enough that you need to be cared after, right? I said, I would love to have a home like that could do that. And so I knew I would need a relatively large home. So I still do. I have a friend, Michael Sturdivant.
We all know him. We call him the mayor.
I call him Dirty Sturdy. So, so Dirty Sturdy and I, we served in Iraq together back in 2008, right? And so, and Sturdy was also there for me during, the illness and so forth, would check on me. Him and his wife would, call and stuff. And I'm gonna tell you, when I first saw Sturdy and in Florida, I was like, oh my God, thank you, Lord. He was somebody that was familiar to me. And so Sturdy could see I was sick. There was no hiding it. He could see my body was tearing down. And, hey, where's your husband? And Sturdy, come on now. It is what it is. And so now my body's doing well and so forth. And one day I'm at my desk and I'm recovering, and Sturdy every now and then would just pop by my desk, So he popped by and he was like, hey. He said, Claude. I said, what? He said, I know the name of I know the name of that house. I said, what? The house, the house that I'm going to build. But honestly, to tell you the truth, at this point, I really didn't believe that I was going to build a house for people to come and stay, and heal. I just felt like a little girl, like you say something, when I grow up, I'm going to do whatever. I didn't know that it was going to really happen. So Sturdy comes up and he says, hey, the name of that house is going to be Porches. And so I was like, you know what, you're right. It's going to be called Porches. And so I want to say that was like 2016. A year later, I retired. And I built the house. I built that house, and God financed that house. I'm telling you, by miracle, God financed that house. And so now it's Porches. And right now, 3 of the 4 spare bedrooms are now filled. And then I have another person that may be coming a little later on in the year. And so I'm so grateful for that God is already using the house. And I just moved in January. God is already using the house for people to come and rest, restore, retreat, And so that's Porches. We juice. We juice and we eat well. Talk about the Lord. It will have different things, Bible studies, just all those type of things that truly heals the body, right? Scriptures that if you want playing at night in your room, because that's another thing I did. I would listen to the word all night long. Healing affirmations, I would just let it play all night long while I was sick. And so that's what we do there. That's what we do now in my home. And so, and it's really wonderful to see God do that.
Well, certainly we thank you for your transparency. Mm-hmm. It took a lot to share that. And I know more of the story than those who heard tonight. But what you shared tonight I think it was touching. I think it's going to bless a lot of people. And I truly thank God for your life and your testimony, for sharing it with us, because stress can come in so many different ways. It may come in a different way than what you experienced it, but stress is stress. Mm-hmm. And it can do a job on the body. And so, the scripture teaches that our body is our temple.
Yes.
And we have to take care of it. And so for all of you that are listening out there, if you're in a stressful situation, like the doctors and what the Lord said to Claudette, let it go, let it go. And I'm glad that you're healed. I'm glad that you're strong. I'm glad that you're doing the work of the Lord. There's a question in the chat box that says, where is Porches? Where is it located?
So it is down, I'm in Tampa, Florida. And so, but I'm actually in Lutz, Florida, but I can walk to Tampa. So in Tampa, Florida.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your organization, and thank God for Porches, because all of those who are coming, they're going to get an opportunity to heal and get an opportunity maybe to hear your story. So we are so much better tonight from hearing your story, and thank you.
Thank
And
you.
if Michael, if Sturdivant, if you're watching by Facebook, I want to say thank you for this hookup. You have been a blessing to this platform since the day we met, and thank you. And I know Claudette, she thinks a great deal of you. So I give you a shout out tonight, and I'm sure Sturdivant will be talking on tomorrow. So for all of you that took the opportunity to stop by, let's talk about it tonight, to listen to Minister Claudette's story, thank you so much for joining in and tuning in with us tonight. And let me say to you, if there's a subject that you would like to have us to talk about, you can also email us. Our email information will be put in the chat box in a couple of seconds. And you can send it in to me, and we'll make sure we'll try to do whatever we can to get that on one Thursday night. That is info@nlcbc.org. You can send us a message. So thank all of you again. And so Claudette, I want to give you an opportunity to have closing remarks, and then we're going to close out. Whatever message that you want to give us in your closing remarks, the floor is yours.
Okay. You know, I just really want you all to know I'm really thankful to the Lord. He knows what we have need of. He is the one that supplies all our needs according to his riches and glory. But one of the things that I had to learn about him is that he truly is our father. He is our dad. He's our daddy. And any good father wants to protect his child. Allow your father to protect you. Allow your father to be there for you. Don't take matters into your own hand. If it's out of your control, it's out of your control. And worrying about it is not going to add anything to it. It's not going to add anything to it. And when you turn it over to the Lord, I trust you, Lord. That has to be what you believe. I trust you, Lord. Because although God was working on my behalf, I still was carrying it. So I had to release it. So it's not, my worrying didn't move God. God was moving because he simply was my father. He's my dad, right? Well, what good is it if my dad is saying, Claudette, you do not have to worry about the rent. You do not have to worry about the mortgage. I'm paying the mortgage every month. And I'm sitting there 29 out of the 30 days of the month. Oh, are we going to still be here next month? Are we still going to be here next month? Didn't I pay the mortgage last month? Yes. Have I missed the mortgage? No. But are you going to pay it this month? Are you going to pay it this month? Let it go. There's nothing I could do about it. Right? And so I ask the same with you. Just release it and trust God as your dad.
Thank you so much. And let me say something that you did a few minutes ago in your closing remarks. I've been wrestling with 2 sermons this week. Started on them that earlier, late Sunday night, early Monday morning. Been wrestling with them. Mm-hmm. And this evening, I was sitting on my sofa, working on one and then going back to the other. Uh-huh. And I said, Lord, I need you to confirm which one it's going to be. And he confirmed it. You spoke the title of it tonight. So he confirmed it. So thank you again. So you're blessing us in more ways than you realize. Oh. So I hope at some point our paths will cross other than Zoom once this pandemic is over, all the ones that I've had the privilege to have on our platform, we'll get a chance to all meet. And again, Michael Sturdivant, thank you again. And Claudette, again, we tip our hat to you tonight for your strength and for your testimony and for your transparency. It has definitely been a blessing to us. And, you know, we'll be talking again very, very soon. We got some other things planned. Now, there's a question in the chat box that says, do you take donations for porches?
So that is how porches is outside the law, you know, the law provided. I don't charge people to come. I don't charge anyone to come because no one plans to be sick, right? No one plans to be sick, and you definitely don't want to be sick and broke, right? And so that's how, you know, that's how it operates off of donations.
Okay, so can you give us some information of how we can sow into that ministry? Can you type it in the chat box, or can you send it to me at some point? So for those who may want to sow into it, we can give them the information so they can sow into this ministry. I would love to plant a seed in it, because I know what the Lord did for you. And if he did it for you, he's going to do it to the others that you are allowed to stay in your facility.
Okay. So I'll get that to you.
Okay. All right. And for those who if you want this information of how to sow into porches, if you would take just a quick minute and put your email address. If you're not a member of the New Life Community Church family, put your email address in the chat box, so we can get that information back to you, so you'll have an opportunity to sow into porches. If you want to take that quick minute and do that, we'll make sure that you get the information. I want to give a couple of minutes for you to put your information in before we actually close out. Okay. All right, I'm sure we'll probably get some more, and you can text me that information later on tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
And we're definitely going to be sewing into your organization.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so
much. Thank you again. God bless you. And we'll be talking soon. And to all of you who are watching by Zoom and Facebook, thank you again. Have a good night. We love you in Jesus. And we'll see you next Thursday night on Let's Talk About It. Follow us on Facebook, and we'll let you know what the subject will be about next Thursday. You can probably see it by probably Tuesday, no later than Wednesday, and what our topic will be. Again, God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.